Hello, this is Bailey Leisure, and this is for the first time ever on my channel. I actually have a guest that's going to be in one of my videos. So I'd like to introduce one of my good friends, Durgesh. How are you doing today?
Good, good.
All right, good. So this will be this is my 2018 NFL predictions video, as I will be talking about some of the top stories and give some predictions on what's going to happen, who's going to win the awards, who are going to win the divisions, and who are potentially the Super Bowl contenders. So the first story I'm going to discuss in this video is some of the rookie quarterbacks in the first round of the 2018 NFL Draft. We saw five rookie quarterbacks go, which was the most I think ever, including 4 in the top 10. And so I'm going to talk about which ones will likely be starting. I'm going to go from the bottom, the ones that were drafted the lowest. So I'm going to start off with Lamar Jackson. Durgesh, how likely of a chance does Lamar Jackson see action in this this season?
I don't think he sees any. To be honest, I think Joe Flacco should start the whole season. I mean, if Joe Flacco is does really horrible, to be honest, I think they should give Lamar Jackson a chance.
Yeah, I think the fact is Joe Flacco's contract expires at the end of the year. And if the Ravens are not a playoff team this year, I really could see, because you look at it, their general manager, Ozzie Newsome, this is his final year. Listen, they haven't made the playoffs in the last couple of years, despite having John Harbaugh, who had that early success in the first. He's been the coach for a decade, and the first half of that decade-long tenure, I mean, they made the playoffs, I think, every year, but it's been a couple seasons since they made the postseason. So I think if they struggle early, Lamar could be worked in, but I don't really see him starting at all this season.
Yeah, me too.
The next quarterback that was taken 10th overall, which was Josh Rosen. What is the likely position or likely starting? How much can you see him starting this season?
To be honest, I'd be shocked if he started this season because the Cardinals are getting 3 QBs.
Yeah,
I think that's why I don't think they want him to see him. Didn't want to play him this season.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think it's really going to come down to if Sam Bradford stays healthy. You know, Bradford, we've known what he can do when staying healthy. I mean, he's a very accurate quarterback, but that's been the issue, and ever since his rookie season has been staying healthy. And so I think if Sam Bradford stays healthy the whole year, which is, if he does, it's going to be a big surprise to everybody, then I don't think Rosen sees any playing action. You didn't really see that much in the preseason because he had that thumb injury in the last 2 games. I mean, I think they gave him some first-team reps in that second game. So now we're moving into quarterbacks that probably will likely be starting. Number 7 that was taken overall for the Buffalo Bills was Josh Allen. What is the likelihood of him starting?
I think he has to start. I mean,
yeah,
especially with AJ McCarron.
Yeah, he got traded to the Raiders today. Yeah, I think that's likelihood you're going to see that happening. Especially, I mean, the thing about Allen is I think he's got a big arm and he can throw that ball far. But I think the biggest problem is accuracy issues. And look at some top quarterbacks in NFL history that have rocket arms. So I don't know, like a Brett Favre or something like that. But we've also seen quarterbacks that have some people were comparing him to Jamarcus Russell.
It's not a good one.
Well, it's because of the accuracy issues, but I think it's likelihood you're going to see Josh Allen start. I mean, it's between him and Nathan Peterman, and he started 1 game last year. And how many interceptions did he throw?
5 picks in 1/2.
I think it was 6 actually.
6 in 1/2.
Something like that. It was not good. So I think Allen has to start. There's no way.
I mean, I feel bad for him because his whole offensive line is so bad. Like, they lost 3 starters from last year, so
yeah,
that's a big risk.
LaShawn McCoy, great running back, but he's getting up in age, and also
definitely.
He's had some off the field issues this season as well. So there's going to be a question mark. There's a lot of pressure on Josh Allen, and I think the good thing for the Bills is last year they did get to the playoffs despite how mediocre the AFC was, and they finally ended that 20-year drought. So I think the pressure to get to the postseason is a little bit off them this season. So next one, who was drafted at number 3, Sam Darnold. I think it's pretty much certain. I think they even announced he's the #1 starter.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they traded Teddy Bridgewater to the New Orleans Saints, which I'll talk about that in a minute. But, I think it's likelihood, The Jets are kind of an interesting team this year because last year they weren't as horrible as I thought they were going to be. I had them winning 2 games.
2 games? Really?
Yeah, I think they won 5 or 6. I mean, Josh McCown wasn't that bad for them. He had statistically his best season in the NFL. So, I mean, the Jets, there is possible. I don't think the Jets are going to do that much here. I'll get into my what their records are going to be later on in this video, but he is their quarterback of the future. They're just hoping, considering he's from USC, he pounds out better than the previous USC quarterback, Mr. Butt Fumble, Mark Sanchez. And now we move on to the number 1 overall pick, Baker Mayfield. What is the likelihood of Baker Mayfield starting this season?
None. I mean, I would be shocked because the Browns gave up a 3rd round for Tyler Taylor, so it's kind of like it would make no sense to me if Baker Mayfield played
Hugh Jackson, if he started Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, it would make no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cardinals and the Browns are similar with their rookie quarterbacks. They don't want to rush him, and I've seen the Browns ever since they've returned to Cleveland rush their quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't really. I mean, I'll get to what their records are going to be, But listen, for the Browns, there's nowhere to go but up. You've won 1 game in your past 2 seasons, which means you went 0-16 in one of those seasons being last year. Okay, so the thing I've noticed in the AFC is the last 15 years, it's only been won by, with the exception of 1 year, there hasn't been an AFC represented quarterback in the Super Bowl that wasn't Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Ben Roethlisberger. We're looking at those 2 teams. Obviously, Manning retired, but those 2 quarterbacks, they're getting up in their in age, and this could potentially be the year where the AFC, the power is kind of shifted because they're both those teams weaken. What are your thoughts on that, especially being a Patriots fan?
To be honest, I think Jacksonville has a good chance if Blake Bortles can play up to his how he played in the last postseason. I think they have a good chance of being the Super Bowl, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Jacksonville, I think defensively they got better. I think Houston's another team. If they can stay healthy, Deshaun Watson's, we saw what he could do last season. It was kind of unfortunate with the Houston Texans. The day after the Houston Astros won the World Series, he tore his ACL and was done for the year. So it's like, they broke one drought, but another one's going to continue. But, there's a lot. I think there's more talent, young talent coming up in the AFC. We've noticed some of the top NFC, talent, especially with rookie quarterbacks like Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott and, several others. Jimmy Garoppolo, well, he was in the AFC, now he's in the NFC. But, you got those top young quarterbacks are starting to come over to the AFC. So, it could be a change and shift this season towards that. As we're recording this, the one thing that happened was the final 53-man rosters were set today. A couple players were traded, a couple players were cut. The one player that has not signed yet is Dez Bryant. Now, obviously the Browns were looking at him, but they decided not to sign him. And Dez Bryant, it's his intentions are kind of questionable. What does this guy want? What does he want? Does he want to have big money? Does he want to play for a contender? What are your thoughts on Dez Bryant and his situation right now?
Honestly, he's definitely confusing because he keeps flip-flopping. He said that he wanted to stay in the NFC East division, but no teams offered him a chance to play for them, and I would say the only team that has definite interest in him is the Browns. So
yeah,
and he said he didn't sign with them, obviously, and now he said that he's willing to let the season play out and wait. So I have no idea. He's confusing.
I don't really get that because of the fact that you're costing yourself money doing that. I think the other situation is people are going to be looking at him because there's several teams that have wide receiver issues. I think the first team that pops up into my mind is Jacksonville. They just lost. They lost two of their wide receivers in free agency, and they just lost Marquise Lee. I don't know what Dez Bryant has to make his intentions clearer. So I just don't know what he wants or what he wants from a team. And then moving on to one of my final top story I'm going to talk about. So there were a couple trades that happened this week. I'm only going to talk about a few of them. If you want to bring some up, we'll bring some up. But Teddy Bridgewater, so they signed with the Jets. Obviously after Sam Darnold emerged as the top starter, he got traded to New Orleans. How does Teddy Bridgewater fit with the New Orleans Saints, in your opinion?
Honestly, when I first did it, I was kind of shocked. I was like, I did not expect the Saints to go after him.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think he has to be in the long term plans of the Saints because to be honest, he had a good preseason in my opinion.
Yeah, I want to see Bridgewater come back. He was a really top quarterback, and then he had that unfortunate injury just before the 2016 NFL season started. Yeah, and I think the thing is, though, Drew Brees, this guy could play 5 more years, and he's got 2 more years. I personally think Drew Brees is looking, he could potentially break some of those passing yards records. I think that's what he's going to do in the next 2 seasons, and then obviously with how good and young New Orleans is, he's going to try to get another Super Bowl ring. But I think Teddy Bridgewater, I think there's going to be, he's still young enough where if Brees, retires after his 2-year deal, he could be the next quarterback. So it's confusing at first, but I think it's a good move for the New Orleans Saints. And then the biggest news that happened today, Khalil Mack got traded, at the huge contract holdout, and the Raiders decided to trade him to the Chicago Bears for 2 first-round picks. What are your thoughts on that?
Shocking. I'm just in disbelief. I don't understand why would Oakland would trade the best player on the team to Chicago. The defense was in shambles with him. Now they don't even have a defense, and
yeah,
I guess they just didn't want to pay him.
I don't get it. There were several other defensive players. Aaron Donald got his big contract. There's several players other players that were having holdouts. There was a lot of contract extensions during this preseason. Todd Gurley got big money. Aaron Rodgers got big money. Aaron Donald got his big money. You'd think Khalil Mack, he'd get his big money, but
no.
For the Bears, I looked at their Vegas odds. They went from 100 to 1 to win the Super Bowl to 40 to 1. That's how dynamic of a player he is. He's a once in a generational talent, and he was holding a defense that was in shambles. I don't really get that for John Gruden. That just shows how long he's been out of the game of football. I just don't get it.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me because when he won a Super Bowl with Tampa, they had the great defense with Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, and John Lynch. It makes no sense to me. He's a
defensive-minded coach. He had a good defense with the Raiders, and he had Charles Woodson, Bill Gronkowski. He had an MVP quarterback at the time, Rich Gannon. Jerry Rice was there. And he was still productive with them. He wasn't the 49ers, Jerry Rice, but it's in a weird way, his Super Bowl was from a questionable trade. And, I don't see the Raiders being great, but I would have thought, okay, in the AFC West, there's a slight chance they could do it. Now it's just and especially, you want to go out, you have 2 more seasons in Oakland before you move to Vegas. You want to go out on something positive, so maybe your fans, Raider fans are pretty spread out, but you want to go on, when you're leaving Oakland, you want to go off on a good note so those fans will come with you a little bit more often. I just don't get that.
Me too.